Starting off, when to prototype and why. I'm Matt Buxton. I am the ideation lead at MAG Interactive. We are mostly known for quiz and word and trivia games. I've been in the industry 15 years as well. Seems to be a nice round number. And today... Thank you. Jesus, I like walking around. It's good. Shouldn't forget this. 3 questions that will help us really understand how to do prototyping slightly better. Everyone does it, but the 3 main things you need to sort of ask yourself when you're starting a prototype: when, why, and how. How are we going to do it? When are we going to make it? And why? So, kicking off. Prototype anxiety. This is a big one. If you're ever in a mobile game company, just polish it up and launch it. Vertical slice. What can we reuse? It's just a Clash Royale meta. All of these things, you kind of hear them a lot in the industry. It's one of the things that makes prototyping hard, because you don't know the objective of the prototype. You don't know if people are going to extend it infinitely. And it's one of the things that's kind of worrying. So that's when you need to figure out, why do we even need one, and what's the purpose of it? Do you need it? Yeah, you really do. With an important caveat. You made it before, and it's never just a reskin. But yeah, generally you need to make a prototype. If you're doing something like a core, even if it's a core that's been out there for years, unless you're literally cloning it and you've made it before, you need to work out whether you can make it. Do you have the tech? Do you have the technical ability? Is your team able to do it? So this is also the thing. It's like when you're starting an idea for a prototype, you need to understand, can you actually finish the damn thing? Will you be able to get this from a small, scrappy Unity thing into full production, launched, ready, out there, UA, marketing, PR, and all of those other lovely good things? And can you launch it? Do you have the availability? Do you have the multiplayer technology to be able to hold lots of people on your server? Can you keep it updated? Also, who's it for? A prototype should have an objective. It should be a very small piece of code or even piece of paper that actually answers a question. And to know what kind of question you're answering, you need to know who your audience is. Is the prototype for the team? If it's for the team, it's, can we make this thing? Can we make this new strategy core? Do we actually know how idle games work? Are any of us good at maths? One of the big questions. Is it for the management? Is it to show them something where they can say, actually, we believe in this product? And that will inform how much you need to make and the fidelity of your prototype. If it's for players, for example, Playtest Cloud or any of these other kind of things where you can test it, or just release it on your own. If it's for players, again, slightly different rule set. So exactly what I just said, unnecessary slide. Understanding the audience sets how much you have to do. With a prototype, you really need to know exactly how long the thing's going to take. And it sets the expectations for the team. The team themselves want to be able to do something and move on afterwards. And it's why. What does it prove? There's many questions that you can answer with a prototype, chiefly fun. And that's one of the hardest ones to do. And it's one of the things that you need to make sure your prototype is answering that question. No excess, no additional features. They're just going to hide the core. Technical ability to make the core mechanic. That is also something you might want to prototype. If you've never made a particular kind of game again, super important that you actually understand how it works. And a new core mechanic. If you have somehow merged a catapult and a match 3 game, you might want to actually test that before releasing it to people and spending a year building it. So you need to test it, you need to get it out for people, to the audience of your prototype. Also, very important, how will you validate your prototype's actually successful? You can make a fun prototype if it's fun for you, but you have to actually validate it. Office test, that's always, always handy. If you can get people in your company, experts in your field, to back your idea, then it's more likely to be a successful idea. It's the most basic. Player feedback, as before, get it out to people. And you need to make sure that they understand it as well. Release it. that's also a possibility. It's very easy to release something under a different name or just an indie or a personal account. Just get it out there, test it, ask people, get feedback from them. Technical considerations. So you also have to make sure that like your prototype isn't demanding something too big of your company or your team. So you have to make sure that you're actually prototyping something to answer the tech question, can we do it? And what we do at MAG, we use this objectives and key results. And it's a really handy way of kind of codifying what you want from your prototype. So the prototype objective is fun. Key results are everyone in the office passed it to someone else. That's a very simple, basic one. But you can do something more complex and something more detailed. For example, objective, players get to level 20. Key results, we see half the people play to level 20. What happens after? Literally the most important thing with a prototype, kill it. Kill it with fire. Always. You're never keeping a prototype. It will just make your devs nervous and sweaty and panicky because it is literally asking someone to do two things in a different way. First of all, you're prototyping, you're making something quick, you're making it for a very specific goal, and then you're asking it to just merge seamlessly into clean production code. Never going to happen. If you're close to your objectives and key results, if you're very, very close and you want to improve something, you can iterate. When you iterate, time box. Super important that you don't take too long on this. And then what do you do? Successful or not, kill it again. Then you start the real game. Or you put the idea on ice. And that's really as simple as that. So how do we do this? If a AAA game is a fantastically, slightly odd-looking pumpkin spice latte, a mobile game is a flat white, and a prototype is a cup of tea. So you keep it simple. Tea, water, milk, three ingredients that you can combine in a way to make a drink exclusive for one Brit alone. You can piss off everyone by making a cup of tea wrong. So that's why you have to keep it simple. A prototype should be simple. It should be answering your question for the right people. And that's why you don't, if you're making a game that you know will have systems like inventories and all of that kind of stuff, get the ability to batter someone with a sword first. It's important. It doesn't matter if you then invent a really fantastic set of boots. If it's only fun playing the game in the boots, you've got a bad game. So, how should you do it? Quick. Make the tea, not the kettle. On a long enough timeline, all coders will start making game engines. How many coders in here? A few. How many of you have tried to make game engines at one point? There we go. A lot of hands stayed up. And the ones who haven't, when are you starting? Okay, but this is important because you may have proprietary tools that you make your real games in. You may actually be using Unity, or you may be using something that you've cooked up yourself. But for a prototype, it's not the same thing. You're not building how to make future games. And that's something that a lot of people get confused with. You may need to make the tea bag. Tools are important. Reusable tools are great for prototypes, but don't try and bundle the engine into the prototyping project. It will just dilute what you're actually trying to achieve. Prototype is a simple question, and you need to know the answer, otherwise it's pointless asking it. You know how the prototype ends. It's killed. You know the audience, who's it for, management, and therefore you know the scope. We're going to do a month-long prototype for management to show that we can build this game. Simple. Complete. Make everything you need to validate it, nothing more. Don't make extra stuff. As I was saying earlier, it's kind of difficult when you see your game in someone else's hands not to jump in there and tell them how to play it. And to that end, you need to make everything as simple as possible. It's the same as if you go to another country and you go to a station and you use the ticket machine, you stand there like a lemon. You don't know how to use it. It's the simplest thing in the world. Hundreds of thousands of people use ticket machines every day. You go to a different country, you are stuck. And that's the thing with a prototype. Your game is a new ticket machine to everyone you hand it to. It could be the simplest thing in the world, but they're still going to stand there and look at it confused. So complete non-broken loops. don't start off in the middle of the game, end the game, have at least an end game state. It's something really important for making people understand what's going on. They win, they lose, they can start a new game, they can go back to the screen. All of these things are kind of essential just to give it that kind of feeling that it is actually a game. Also, prototyping isn't done in isolation. It is part of a process. The process of tiny baby Yoda drinking. I just like tiny baby Yoda. So, but we have at MAG, we have an ideation process where prototypes are made for games and then they feed into production. We do research with market testing and all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes you need a gate, whether it's a gate with management, whether it's a gate for passing some key results, something that will tell you to carry on or stop the project early. And the thing is, if you do these things quickly, you can fail quickly. And the other important thing about this, the process allows developers and people with ideas to fail on the strength of their idea and not be told no. And that's one of the principles that we have is you can validate your idea with metrics, then your idea is good. And that's as simple as that. It's not someone's opinion, me saying, I don't think that game with goats or bread would work. Who would want to play as a goose? I mean, it's terrible. All of these things are really successful kind of game jam style games. And it's great. So let people do it. Let them try it. Let them fail. And keep it quick and keep it timed. And then you don't have to worry about having a pipeline that's empty of games and every game you make is 2 years to make. So, conclusion. When? Generally always. If you haven't made it before, you're going to want to have a start at it before you start trying to write production code for it. Why? To answer a question. A specific objective, it's a simple question. Is it fun? Can we build it? What is it like? Does this new core mechanic work? Just one question. Don't answer 2 or 3 to different people. You can make different prototypes for different audiences for different parts of the game. You can use things like Figma or UX or UI design tools to take the load off putting everything in Unity. Something like Figma, it's collaborative. It allows you to make all of the UX and click-through prototypes outside of the game. And what you really want to answer is my core good? Not can I copy Supercell? Because you can. You'll fail, but you can. How? Fast but complete. Make it quickly, use bad code, make tools to make it easier, but make it complete. So you can play it, you have an end state, and you can understand what's going on. And killed, whatever happens. Don't punish coders by making them work on terrible code. And the other thing is, don't punish coders by making them work on someone else's code. Who here likes working on someone else's code? There we go. First, no hands up. Everyone hates other people's code, and that's why you don't want to... A prototype is an idea. You hand it to someone, they make something different. They don't touch your code. Questions?
Thank you very much. Questions, but yeah. And anyone got? By the way, I think when you did that talk we did in Portugal, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
Matt did a talk about design technique +1ing. I think you talked.
+1 good.
I still to this day quote that.
Thank you.
Seriously, he's a really, really insightful designer, and everything he says is absolutely spot on. Well, maybe not everything, but everything I've seen on stage, anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Everything,
sorry,
everything when I'm sober, you can trust.
Any questions, guys?
There's
one over here. We'll try and get a microphone to you.
When creating like prototypes, how much do you put into like polishing it like at all? Like when making like 3D prototypes, do you just use white boxes or maybe already made assets? How much effort do you put into that stuff?
It really depends on the audience. If your audience is players, and if you intend to put it through anything like a playtest cloud or to some testing or release it, you need to have enough that they can understand what's going on. If it's the case of 3D assets, if you're already making 3D assets, try to reuse as much as you can, and try to make the most important asset with the one with the most fidelity. So if you have a game where you're running around as a little character, maybe shooting arrows, maybe that's a game that everyone's making right now, if you're making one of those games, by all means, buy everything from Unity Store. I mean, they did in Archero, and you can still buy those assets very cheaply today. Yeah, buy the assets. A low level of fidelity, higher for players. Essentially, it's about the question you want to answer. If you're trying to work out whether your game's going to be successful, then that's maybe a different thing. At MAG, we call it a minimum lovable product. It's not the minimum viable product because that will fall over. It's something that you can play for a few days and you can get a little bit of experience in the loop. In that case, we try to make it relatively high quality art. I hope that answered the question. Thanks.
That's good to me. Any more questions? There's one, oh, there's a couple coming up. So there's one over there, and then we'll come to you afterwards.
If you want to release a prototype to some sort of audience, do you have any tips on sort of where you can post it or anything?
So what you can do, it depends what you want to do. If you're going to really, I would say that you would push it onto the Play Store, most likely, maybe under a different account name to your main account. Push it to the Play Store, and then you can validate a little bit of the user acquisition as well. Because that's one thing that we do that starts to work really well, is while we're not making the high quality artwork for the prototype, we will be making high quality adverts that we can show. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to make your UA art and your storefront art at the same time as your prototype. Then if you have a little prototype to release, you already have nice art that you've already tested CPIs on. And then you can actually utilize the art that you've been building to attract people to your prototype. So it's kind of a double win on that one.
We have one last question.
So when you're first starting out and you go from being a person with an idea and a deck to wanting to go out and start building some prototypes, do you have any suggestions for how you make that leap and where you might find good prototypers?
So it depends who you are. If you're a coder with an idea, it's a lot easier. And if you're like me, a traditional, boring paper designer who somehow still exists, what you need to do is you need to excite other people. And you need to bring them in early. Because as a designer, my primary job is to listen to people, to listen to the team, to listen to the industry. You're not going to be a game author if you can't code. You need to have someone with you and discuss the idea and bounce it off each other. And then you can provide the things that they can't. You can provide the push, they can provide the code, and then you can help out with the whole sort of marketing it to people.
Cool. Sounds perfect. And on that note, thank you very much.
Cheers.